The year is 1227. Hook. Picture this, the most powerful man on earth lies dying in his tent, somewhere in the mountains of Westernshire. His empire stretches from Korea to the Caspian Sea, larger than any realm in human history. But Genghis Khan's greatest conquest? He's about to take that secret to his grave. Quick preview. Today we're diving into the death that would reshape the known world, exploring a pope's desperate flight from his own city, uncovering the rise of England's most controversial king, and witnessing how one man's final breath sent shockwaves across 3 continents. Context. Welcome to 1227, a year when empires crumbled, dynasties fell, and the medieval world held its breath. From the steppes of Mongolia to the palaces of Westminster, from the walls of Rome to the courts of France, this is the year everything changed. Let's start with the man whose very name struck terror into hearts from Beijing to Baghdad. Genghis Khan, the Great Khan, the universal ruler, the man who'd united the fractious Mongol tribes and forged them into history's most devastating war machine. But in the late summer of this year, something unprecedented happened. He died. Now, here's where it gets absolutely fascinating. We know virtually nothing about how it actually happened. Was it injuries from falling off his horse? Illness? An arrow wound from the Westernshire campaign? The Mongols kept it so secret that even today, historians are still guessing. What we do know is this: when the Great Khan breathed his last, his sons and generals faced an impossible task. How do you hide the death of the most famous man alive? They did something extraordinary. Picture this scene: the Mongol army, still deep in enemy territory, begins its long march home. But Genghis Khan's body? Hidden in a cart, disguised as supplies. Anyone who encountered the funeral procession was killed on the spot to preserve the secret. Talk about taking state secrets seriously. But here's the most incredible part: they succeeded. For months, possibly even a full year, the outside world had no idea that the Great Khan was dead. His empire continued to function, his armies kept conquering, all while his body made its mysterious journey to a burial site that remains undiscovered to this day. Meanwhile, in the heart of Christendom, another kind of power struggle was reaching its climax. Pope Honorius III, the man who'd been trying to hold together the Holy Roman Empire and launch another crusade, was facing his own mortality. And let me tell you, the timing couldn't have been worse. For years, Honorius had been locked in an impossible balancing act. On one side, Frederick II, brilliant, ambitious, and crowned Holy Roman Emperor just 7 years earlier. On the other, the increasingly restless German princes and the ever-present threat from the east. The Pope had been trying to organize another crusade to the Holy Land, but Frederick kept making excuses, delaying, promising to go next year. As Honorius's health failed that autumn, you can almost feel the panic in the papal court. What would happen when he died? Who would be strong enough to deal with Frederick? Little did they know, they were about to get one of the most controversial popes in church history. When Honorius finally passed away in March, the College of Cardinals elected Ugolino di Conti, who became Pope Gregory IX. Now, Gregory was no diplomatic pushover like his predecessor. This was a man with fire in his belly and absolutely no patience for Frederick's games. Within months, he'd be threatening excommunication if the emperor didn't honor his crusade vows. Talk about changing the tone. But let's hop across the channel, because something equally dramatic was unfolding in England. Young Henry III, and I mean young, he was barely 20, finally declared himself ready to rule without a regent. Can you imagine? This wasn't just any royal coming-of-age ceremony. Henry had been king since he was 9 years old, crowned in the chaos following his father John's death and the disaster of Magna Carta. For over a decade, regents and advisors had been running England in his name. But now? Now he wanted real power. The audacity is breathtaking when you think about it. Here's a young man who'd never actually ruled anything, suddenly announcing he's ready to take control of one of Europe's most turbulent kingdoms. The barons who'd forced Magna Carta on his father were still alive, still suspicious of royal power. The French were still sniffing around, hoping to expand their influence. And Henry? Henry was about to prove that youth and inexperience don't always go hand in hand. His first major decision? A complete shake-up of the government. Out went many of his regency advisors, in came his own chosen men. It was a power play worthy of a much older, more experienced ruler. And remarkably, it worked. The transition was smoother than anyone had dared hope. Now, while Christian Europe was dealing with papal succession and royal coming of age, something catastrophic was happening in the Islamic world. The Almohad Caliphate, once the dominant power across North Africa and southern Spain, was tearing itself apart. Picture the scene in Marrakesh and Seville. Just 15 years earlier, the Almohads had seemed invincible. They controlled everything from the Atlas Mountains to the Guadalquivir River. But then came Las Navas de Tolosa in 1212, that crushing defeat at the hands of the combined Christian kingdoms. The Almohad military machine never recovered. This year, the crisis reached breaking point. Local governors were declaring independence left and right. In Al-Andalus, the great cities of Córdoba and Seville were slipping from central control. The Hafsids in Tunisia were building their own power base. And in Morocco itself? Chaos. Absolute chaos. What makes this so tragic is that we're witnessing the beginning of the end for one of history's great civilizations. The Almohads had been patrons of philosophy, science, and art. They'd built some of the most beautiful architecture in the world. But internal divisions and external pressure were proving too much to bear. Here's what's absolutely fascinating about this year: it's like watching dominoes fall across the known world. Genghis Khan's death would trigger the largest succession crisis in Mongol history, ultimately leading to the empire's division into four separate khanates. That papal transition? It set the stage for decades of conflict between pope and emperor that would reshape medieval politics. Henry III's assumption of power would lead to some of the most important constitutional developments in English history, though it would take a few more decades and another civil war to get there. And the Almohad collapse? That created a power vacuum that would fundamentally alter the balance between Christian and Islamic Spain. But perhaps most remarkably, none of these major players really understood how their actions would echo through the centuries. Henry had no idea he was setting precedents for parliamentary government. The cardinals electing Gregory IX had no clue they were choosing someone who would revolutionize the Inquisition. The Mongol generals hiding their Khan's death couldn't foresee that their empire would soon stretch from Poland to Vietnam. Rap UP. And there you have it, 1227, a year when the old order cracked and the new world began to emerge from the fragments. The great Khan was gone, but his sons would carry Mongol armies to the gates of Vienna. The Pope was dead, but his successor would prove that the Church could still shake thrones. A boy king had become a man, and an empire had begun its long collapse. Next time, we'll see how these seismic shifts play out as the medieval world struggles to adapt to its new reality. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. And so concludes our journey through 1227. Join us next time as we explore what the year 1228 has in store.